The pharaoh Akhnaten was a young ruler with one grand vision: monotheism, the worship of one God embodied in the sun. This was a new thing. Akhnaten focuses on ancient history, specifically ancient Egypt, a timeless period, really, with this hypnotic, mystical score that functions a little bit like memory itself. In the 1970s and 80s, Philip Glass famously composed what's known as this portrait trilogy of operas. There was Einstein on the Beach, which addressed science, Satyagraha, which addressed the issue of Gandhi and politics, and this opera, Akhnaten, which premiered in 1984 and addresses the whole idea of religion. Akhnaten himself is this fascinating historical character. He was the pharaoh of Egypt around 1350 BCE. He changed the entire system of his country. He suppressed the worship of the old gods, and he built a city specifically dedicated to one god, the sun god, Aten. Although he himself was not a typical-looking person, we know from a couple of depictions of him, he was in fact perhaps a little deformed. He married the most beautiful woman of the ancient world, Nefertiti. We have some of their love poetry. But we don't know a lot about him because after he died, his monotheistic system was wiped out and he was eliminated from the historical record. Now, the creators of this opera found it almost helpful for their purposes that Akhnaten had been wiped out from history. It left them a lot of room to speculate. Plot, in the sense of who does what to whom, is not really the point of this opera. The story unfolds like a ritual in which we are all participating. What we have is a series of scenes built around major events. We have the funeral of Akhnaten's father, which is the passing of the old order. We have Akhnaten's coronation, the establishment of a new order. Then we have that order passing too and being destroyed. And finally, we have the memory of the idea. Philip Glass's musical style is really well suited to addressing these speculative ideas and philosophical ideas. It's right there in the music because he's famous for working with these musical figures that repeat several times and then develop very minutely. There might be one note different for a few measures and then another, and pretty soon you're in an entirely different place wondering how you got there. The texts that are sung are adapted from antiquity. Some are in English translation, some are in ancient Egyptian, in another ancient language, Akkadian, and then there's also some spoken text. The orchestration is really interesting. There's a lot of percussion, a lot of brass, especially to highlight the ceremonial and military aspects of the score. And interestingly, there are no violins. This came about originally as what the composer calls a happy accident. There just was no room in the orchestra pit that they had to use at the premiere, and he figured something has to go, and instead we have the violas as the highest register string instrument in the orchestra, and this creates a unique texture, really rich, beautiful sound. Akhnaten himself, the title role, is written for a countertenor. That alone is extraordinary. You're going to know right away that Akhnaten is not just another king on the operatic stage. The countertenor voice has an inherently otherworldly sound. It encompasses all genders. It's not between male and female, it is both. And therefore, like the spiritual life having no gender, it has a divine quality to it. One of the central pieces of the opera is a hymn to the sun, which is Akhnaten's own text and a very important one in the history of religion. And this is sung in English per Glass's instructions. He always wanted this part sung in the language of the audience. One of the aspects of this moment in history that continues to fascinate people is how much cannot be known about this very ancient reign of a pharaoh. And it very much addresses the filter of how we know and we experience today this very ancient story. When you take this opera on its own terms, it's the story of dreams and aspirations and loss and memory. I find it strangely poignant and powerful in that way that the best operas are. Even though Akhnaten does not unfold in the way of standard operas, it does unfold with its own logic and its own inevitability. You'll find it's a journey as vast as any other you'll encounter in the opera house.